All right, welcome to the OWASP Sustainability Working Group. Um, Salve, do you recall where we left off last week?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see. I added a tiny little icon with an arrow in it at point 4 in the non-funding support examples list, which is appendix 1. So we started going through some of these from the top, I think it was. We talked about quite a few different topics, though, that maybe we should just mark them as done as we go instead of assume it
Right.
starts at the top. Some of these, I don't know. Some of them will probably be okay to remove or merge with others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still on that. Which one are we at? Which bullet point are we on right now?
4, I think.
4. Okay, community building and management.
Yeah. So should we just jump into it, or?
Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, so to reiterate here, the point here is to enumerate a whole lot of things an open source project would find themselves in a position to want help with or to ask for help with. Um, I actually experienced a situation where this was I needed this list, but I'd forgotten this list existed. Somebody said, "I want to help," and I asked them, "Okay, what do you help with?" And they said, "I don't know. I just want to help." They wanted to relate. This is with the SIP and security group, and while we have people who care about security there and have time, but they don't have a specific interest, so they're like just looking for some way to like
Mm.
lift crates or something. I don't know. So I wish I like many hours later. Of course, I remembered. Oh, I should have just given them the list and say, okay, is there anything here which is motivating to you, and that what you could are in a position to help with in a meaningful way? And so yes, so filling in a bunch of examples at the point. It should be good enough so someone can understand what kind of if it's relevant for them. If they know what's going on, they should figure out if there's anything associated or related or other relevant thing that is in scope when we mention these few examples.
Mhm.
So at point 4, as we said, community building and management, I put in a bunch of examples. A culture and conduct, meaning, say, for example, help us make a code of conduct document or something. DEI is also a thing. I would say that's related to making everybody feel welcome. That is kind of helping with a community manager type of role. Forum management, moderation, and support and things like that is just making sure that when people ask in a forum that they get a reply or that they're wished welcome and such a things. Governance development. That's about bylaws and how to make important decisions and conflict resolution. And recruitment and onboarding is about more making the on-ramp as easy as possible. I think I managed to got the most important bits of the social aspects of an open source project there, like the what community building and community management.
Yep.
Um, can you think of anything else that you've experienced would maybe fit under this banner that we should add?
The only thing that really fits, because but we've got a separate section for it, is outreach, which is part of community building, but it's yeah. But
Yeah, I would. I'm thinking it would be useful to split this into where one is
yeah,
to
I agree.
find the people and the other ones are to get them going and giving them a reason to hang around.
Yeah.
This is a little
I
bit of a
don't
different type.
think I can't think of anything else that would go in here. I mean, I've had to do, or the team has had to do each one of these things.
Yeah.
Some of these are kind of a one and done type of thing. Others are like performed on a continuous basis. Like governance development, that's usually like a one-time thing. Maybe you refine it a few times. DEIs, recurring. Forum management is recurring. Recruitment and onboarding, that could be recurring, although it could, depending on the approach, you could just do a doc or workflow type of thing
Or
and do it
just
one time.
writing it and keeping it up to date. This
Yeah,
takes a little bit of attention. And then
yeah,
I'm also thinking that when asking for help, one of the valuable things in the act of asking is that you get an outside perspectives, fresh ideas into
yep,
how to make a good onboarding experience. For example, if you tried and
absolutely.
you're not happy with the results, then that's a really useful type of contribution.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I
it's
can't think anything of else that would go in there.
yeah.
I think you covered it.
So let's just should we say that we're happy with point 4 and then move on?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Point 5, content creation. So the idea here is, and I've been in this situation a bunch of times, and that is when I'm out at events where I know my colleagues in my open source communities, they're not always thinking that creating content is something they're interested in, but it's kind of important. At least like having a conference, for example, today, luckily, most conferences make sure there's a video recording with decent audio and slides shown on the screen, something like that. But then there's the kind of discussions you can have just by through luck, just for serendipity. If you find somebody who has something interesting to share. In the Perl and CPAN community, we have a tradition for lightning talks at conferences, and that's like 5-minute talks about short topics. And between each lightning talk, we have the tradition also to have a super short message. Anybody can get up at the stage and share something that's ongoing or an effort or we hiring or whatever. Like 3 words while the next lightning talk speaker prepares his laptop on the screen. That's a really good way to get some messages out there. But I've been at several conferences or other events where I met somebody who I know is doing something interesting, and I'm saying, would you be okay if we set up a camera and have a very short interview where we talk about something? And we did have done that, and quite often these are some really good ideas and thoughts and conversation that comes out of that. But the editing work, I find that so mind-numbingly boring. So I'm in a situation where I really need help, and I really wish this something like this, like a way to communicate that I have podcast episode materials or short interviews that could fit into a techie YouTube channel or something that could go on Hacker Radio. That's like a and volunteer-driven. Anybody can submit content type of thing, but it requires editing, audio editing or video editing, even creating some small semi-regular news channel or something is useful.
Mhm.
And to get outreach, especially for larger communities where lots of stuff, or heterogeneous communities where lots of things are happening, like programming language communities have a lot of activity going. Each component is its own community, and they might have something exciting going on, or they need help with something or whatever. So I'm thinking, well, content creation, it isn't a thing for everybody. It's definitely a thing that can be useful for almost any open source project out there. Because if you're going to make something well out of an open source project, people need to be aware of it. You have to make something cool, and then you have to tell everybody else about it, that it exists, so that they can check it out and eventually contribute so it becomes even better. And that's the whole point with open source. You share it with people in order to make the code better. So this is actually for me a super important point, to make sure that we have any type of content creation that is relevant in this list. So in the question, so I've right now there's only 2 points there: audio and video editing and podcast hosting or participation. I'm thinking there's more in there that could be added or moved from other things, like, for example, writing articles. Um, I don't know what kind of other content is useful to talk about.
Well, that was kind of one of my questions for you, because like under outreach, for example, we have like writing articles.
Yes.
And my question to you was going to be around, well, do we want to capture, do we want this category to remain the same, content creation, or and if we leave it the same, then we can stuff it full of all the other stuff that we can add here, or do we want to rename this just AV services and have it just specific to AV? Um,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Like, what's the word for the text you write, sometimes with pictures that is supposed to this be the things you read in a movie. It's the
scripts.
yeah, the script that you write. That script writing will say, for example, if you want to
Mhm.
make a funny open source project ad that you can present
Right.
at we done that in the per community. Somebody said, made a hilarious this, I think it's happened at least twice, a hilarious short video showing something completely absurd, but with the point that there's something cool going to happen, and you should be aware of this. Next conferences will be there, for example. I don't remember exactly what it was. So writing a script is an art, is a type of content.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Writing blogs, um, creating infographics. I mean, these are all different types of content that you could theoretically create. White papers, case studies. Um, this is all content development.
yeah, it kind of sounds to me that having a separate content development point might be valuable.
Okay.
Script writing, putting art. I'm going to move writing articles.
Okay.
Script and then script writing and infographics.
And then put that in content creation then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, we can make this look okay. Writing article, script writing, creating infographics. You had a couple more examples there.
Blog articles, white papers, and case studies.
Should these be separate ones, or should some
case studies? Yeah, case studies / white papers. And
okay, let's call capitalization. What? Last point.
Yeah.
Sorry, my.
Oh, there was one for blog articles, but I mean, honestly, we can.
It could be blogging, just instead of writing. Writing article / blogging.
Blog, right. Yeah. Okay. Because those are a little bit more creative versus the case studies and white papers, which are a little bit more dry.
Yeah. Yes. I really like those two additions: infographics, white papers, and the script writing. I just came to me right now, so I think we already have a major improvement here.
Okay, no, that's good. I mean, we can always refine it as we think of more things, but
yeah. And if somebody, if watches this on YouTube and finds out we've missed something super obvious, then please share in the comments or join our meetings.
Yeah.
All right. Next point, it says creative work and design. This is one of the points that were in the chaos list of ways to help a project. I'm not entirely sure what that means, because in a sense, okay, maybe that's more on the artistic side, like creating graphics or a mascot or
yeah, so you might have a logo, right? You might have like logo development or brand development, but I believe we have like brand development under project branding.
yes.
So brand development and strategy, but that's usually a creative function. You also have website design, which I believe we have under outreach. So you have website development under outreach. You know, your script writing and stuff like that, that could theoretically be creative work.
Yeah.
I don't know. True. I think this is kind of, this is vague. Creative work and design is very vague.
Yeah, like for me, creative work and design speaks to me as the artistic parts of content creation, where while the content creation or whatever it is more about communicating information instead of this is like facts versus feeling.
Right.
So in a creative work,
although it's very important. In fact, people do not, like, when they make purchases, they typically do it based on how they feel about something versus what they know about something.
Yes. How does this apply to open source projects?
Well, it's all about adoption, right? Adoption and community building, right? And that part of that community building is going to include, recruiting, or grooming and recruiting future maintainers, or co-maintainers, right?
Yeah.
But you need to be able to kind of lure them in. You need to make it attractive,
Well,
for, you know.
yeah, but like when we're speaking to someone through their, let's call it their aesthetic part of the brain instead of the
Mhm.
systemic or logic or topical parts like around, well, like the software development bits instead of the yeah. Uh, and what I'm thinking is, okay, what I'm wondering is, for example, the Go mascot, which is like a tiny cyan colored bear with a big goofy smile. Um, how many people decide to involve themselves in Go because the colors are nice or the goofy smile is appealing? And I'm saying this knowing that in the Perl community we have Camellia, which is the mascot for the Perl 6 turned into a raccoon programming language, which is a butterfly with all kinds of weird colors, almost drawn by a child. It isn't. It is purposely made so by Larry Wall himself, with the intention to have a logo that appeals to 11-year-old girls. Something that is actually makes people smile. And I've met people who've seen the plush version. I actually have one here. So this is how it looks. So it has a P and a 6 in the wing there, just to show that it comes from Perl 6. It has a Perl 6 legacy, and it's completely insane that this project has a goofy, quote unquote, unprofessional mascot like that. But it's also kind of fun, and somebody has spent the time to put this together, and it actually works. So,
Mhm.
so it has. I can say with confidence it has value, but the question is, how do we fit this into this list? I'm thinking having its own heading would be useful, but under it, should we put some of the other, like script writing, should probably be moved in under there, perhaps, since it's more of a creative activity, isn't it? Or is it not? I don't know. How about
Well, I mean, um, instead of why don't we do this? Why don't we, instead of I would keep the script writing and stuff under content creation,
yeah?
but instead of creative work and design, I would just I would rename that to creative design, or um what would be a
I like it as it is, actually. And there's another benefit, and that is this phrase is already used by another community which thinks very much about the same things, and
well,
using the same phrases is
the problem
nice.
with this is that it's going to include all creative work.
Yeah.
So text, people who do creative writing, which articles, right? So like we've got the writing articles and blogging, that would then fall under creative work. You got potentially
Oh,
infographics that could potentially fall under that. So you've got a lot of, you have audio video stuff that's also creative work.
yeah. You're making me think about something here. Maybe the topic content creation should be a little bit more specific, that we're talking about not the creative bits, but the factual or the technical content creation. And yes, there's a spectrum of activities around there which are very similar, but and we can. I think it's okay to repeat the subpoints, since we will be doing audio and video editing with the point of getting knowledge across is a kind of different than something where you have the full freedom to tell a narrative that has been made up just to create a work of art, or that communicates something.
Maybe what we do, we've got content creation. I don't really like the thing of like doing it technical and creative. That's going to get the number of choices is going to be just, I think from a usability perspective, whatever taxonomy we come up with has got to be very, very crystal clear on what it is that we mean.
Right.
So instead of doing like writing articles and blogging, why don't we just say creative writing? I mean, that's what the industry actually calls writers who write you know, fiction or marketing type stuff. They're creative writers.
Right.
Likewise, we could also put in there like visual designers or graphic designers. And then we could remove the writing articles and blogging, and then remove possibly the script writing as well, because that's just a form of creative writing. Because then it just becomes redundant. I honestly don't think the Chaos folks gave this a ton of thought.
No, I think they could give them a little bit of thought, but I also give okay. Here's a suggest. I'm not sure if this is a good suggestion, but when I try to map out the field, try to learn something, I try to first figure out like the size of it by making a mind map or just a glossary or something like that. And when I get an idea of, when I get having a reasonable feeling that I have got most of it, then I start stripping away stuff which I feel is not interesting or not relevant, but that's a new document in a sense, because the completeness has its own value in itself. So the question here is, should this be a complete list? And what you're saying, if I understand it correctly, is it's better if it's not, that we just get the important bits there. But here's the problem I have with that, and that is if we say, for example, say script writing, we say that creative writing implies script writing. From a technical person's perspective, some open source developer who wants their project to grow, they might not be aware about this distinction. They might be in a situation where they think they need help with some writing. And if they see a list like this and they say, what do you mean script writing? And it means, oh, you write the text of a video in the preparation of writing or making the video. That's an activity, that's a separate skill set in a sense, where you have to figure out not only what's being said, but also like camera angles and the composition of the picture and stuff like that. Which opens the door to thinking creatively about how to get visibility around the project. Like, is this something worth exploring? And if you don't know the door exists, how could you possibly open the opportunity and create opportunities? So in a sense, having a complete list like this, I think, has its own value.
Mm-hmm.
But that also kind of means it becomes really long.
Yeah, I know.
So this is some of the my frustrations with open source in general. Like, this is from a few years back, and after a while, I realized if strictly speaking, the people, if you are running your own open source project and you want to be successful in every way, you kind of have to do everything. Yeah. Absolutely everything. You have to be both a good designer, coder, architect, of the software architect, communicator, speaker, text writer, actor, motivator. Like, there's so many roles you can get, and that's completely unreasonable. But that's kind of what it has been like. And the really good open source projects out there are led by people who can, or at some point have filled many of those roles well enough so that people get attracted. And that's what I'm thinking, at least. I might be.
Yeah. I'm going to share with you. I just put this into Chat GPT and it spit out a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Let's see. How can I share this? Because I did it on my personal computer. And yeah, we don't do Chat GPT at my work. So let's see. All right, so I pasted that into a Word document. Let me share this Word document then. Where's the share button? So I asked it this was the question that this is the prompt that I had.
Use a external creating content creation service structure to cover a range of services typically found in this field. Right. Audience, copywriting. Mail design, yeah. That's not a bad list. There's a lot of interesting things in the illustration, photography, videography, visual content creation.
It's actually a fairly decent list.
Yeah.
My wife spent a good portion of her career doing this.
Yeah.
Now she's doing all of this, some of this, and she's done a lot of this.
Yeah.
Let's see what else is on here. Content distribution and promotion.
Audio content, voiceover, sound design, brand. Oof. That's a very good list.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to I think we're gonna have to we might have to noodle on this a little bit. I want to put this in the Slack channel.
Yeah. Could you put it in the parking lot also?
Yeah.
In our document? Because I think there's quite a bit worth stealing from, but that's more leading towards growing the list.
Right.
We all that comes with. So, where are we? Yeah, there's so much in that list. We could have stolen a bunch of that, but
yeah.
It around regular content creation. It had could you show me the list again? there was a phrase ChatGPT gave that was could be used instead of content creation. I think I quickly read it.
Where's my word? Did I
Yeah,
close it down already? Oh yeah. How is that? Hold on a second.
Yeah. If you
there it is. Okay. I put it in the Slack channel as well.
Yeah. Right. Okay. You have visual content and social media content. I can just okay. Let's see if I can find the Slack channel. Yeah, it doesn't really talk about the type of contents that would end up becoming a white paper or something like that.
No.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, those are usually not creative things, case studies and white papers. They're fairly dry, but they are content creation.
yeah. What's non-creative? Is it okay to say non-creative content? Uncreative content creation.
Maybe
What's
I
a
can
good phrase in? What's a good phrase in English?
Let's see.
What does the internet say? I am not an English native speaker, or native English speaker, so there's too much. I have too many questions.
Okay, now it's oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is good. This is really good. It's still generating. I am not like purposely not sharing with. Okay, it's done generating. This is a really good list. Okay. Oh, and then I just very simply modified that prompt to be that. Oh no, that's the original prompt. Sorry. And then okay. So we've got some new things in here. For example, copywriting and editorial content. We've got legal and compliance writing, which is interesting. Transcription services also falls into that. That's a fairly non-creative thing. All the social stuff remains the same. Audio transcription, which is interesting. Here's where your case studies and that sort of thing would kind of fall under research and data-driven content.
Right. Informational content.
Yeah.
Right. Learning course development. Product guides. It is pretty nice.
Yeah, let me share this updated document
Yeah.
in the Slack too.
Thank you. Let's. I suggest we take an iteration through there, through those two documents or that last one, and then see if we can integrate it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And we can, in the meantime, quickly look at the next point here. It says documentation authorship. So optimization and completeness, consistency and voice, indexing, findability, SEO, stakeholder relevance. The point with adding 0.7 here now, under which is the one after creative work and design, is to look at the qualities of the text in such a way that it achieves its purpose and reaches or speaks to the intended audience, for example. You want to write something a little bit differently for somebody who has a deep technical background than for somebody who's the end user of an application. That's like the naive way of doing things, but like, for example, making a stepwise guide to do something can also be done in several different ways, depending on what kind of audience you want to reach. Some like infographics, others just want something they can cut and paste into the terminal, which can basically create the same type of understanding. Some like code, some like different types of state diagrams flowing with arrows and boxes. And adapting the text or documentation to its audience is something that can be super meaningful in some situations, I'm thinking. And but some of this can also be very technical. For example, in the Raku project, there's been quite a large effort now the last good while in trying to improve the documentation for the programming language. And that's a super complicated type of text because it's very technical, but it also needs to be complete and have internal references and multiple keywords. Like if you search for a phrase that is common in software development, but where we use kind of a different term internally in the this program language, then you kind of have to tag the relevant functions or methods, for example, with both terms used, such that people who, for example, use, if you, for example, want to find out how, if the language, how it supports traits, that's a certain programming language feature. But we don't use the term traits in Raku, we use the term roles, which are subtly different, but kind of the same idea. With a but somebody who comes from another language should end up reading the correct documentation anyway. And this type of matching between keywords and the documents that we want people to land on, that requires thinking proper thinking and the right infrastructure and tagging and indexes, so that the search feature on the website helps, instead of just creating massive lists of options that were too few. This is like the old Alta Vista problem. Yes, it was a fast search engine, but it was completely useless because it showed everything instead of just
I remember that
relevant
search
ones.
engine. Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
may
old
it rest
timers,
in
right?
pieces.
Right. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
But when you look at the point 7 here, it says this is different types of activities than what we just talked about, and I hope you agree with me there. This says something
Yeah.
that feel is missing there, or that feels odd. And I might be here. Here's one thing, and this is in the second point, consistency and voice. I don't know if those if the term voice means is something meaningful for most people. This is a term that I've made up in my mind, and when I'm
No,
using
it's actually used widely.
it is okay.
Yes. Yeah, at
And
least in marketing circles anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and so in my mind, when I'm thinking, say for example, you have a collaborative document, meaning several authors are writing on the same text. Having a single voice there means that there's one person who goes through the document at the end and rewrites it in such a way that it kind of sounds or comes across as from one author, but without changing the actual content or the meaning of the content.
Right.
Is that the same way others are using the term voice as you know it, or?
Yeah, I mean, you typically want to have like a neutral voice for documentation, right? You don't want to use certain classifications of words, right? Because you might invoke feeling or those types of things.
Yeah.
Documentation is absent of all that, which is the opposite of like what your marketing folks want to achieve, right? Well, your documentation needs to be basically absent a lot of these these kind of words that kind of drive behavior. And when you do that, and you focus on a neutral voice, it's very easy. It's easier to kind of get people to communicate roughly the same. The only thing you obviously need to look out for is typically um, different competencies or dialects of English, right?
Yeah.
Just because different regions use different words for different meanings, that sort of thing will always be a challenge, regardless of what language you speak.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm not really well versed in this. So, and what you say is stuff that makes sense, and I have heard others say the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm also adding to this that we in the Perl community over the last 30 years, there has been a lot of books out there that have been published, and a substantial of them were through O'Reilly and Associates, and quite a few of them kind of became famous because they were easy to read, and that's because the authors kind of they picked a voice which was kind of personal. You could their way of phrasing the terms and having a kind of a conversation or a narrative that was created was actually part of the content that made it more appealing and easier to get through, even if it was a technical introduction to
the industry
language.
calls it voice and tone.
Right.
So that's what my wife always refers to it as. Let me ask ChatGPT. Define voice and tone.
Is that a type of editing? When you're asking for help are you asking help to edit consistency, voice, and tone, or are you asking for what is the verb?
Well, I mean, whether you are a creative writer or a writer in general, if you are a writer or an editor and you work for the same organization, you typically have a style guide, and that style guide is not only going to include your visuals, but it's also going to include like your voice and tone. That
Right,
way, when no matter how many writers you have on staff or how many editors you actually have editing that final material, you have a unified approach to how you communicate.
right. Yeah, but that's more of a at that point we're talking more of a kind of a policy thing instead of getting the author's personality shine through the text.
Yeah, the right. The goal of you've got consistency, voice, and tone. The goal of that is to just ensure that
Yeah,
everyone is, no matter how many people you have contributing to that, it
yeah,
sounds like one.
yeah, exactly. And it could be personal in a sense, or
Sure.
yeah. Okay, sweet. Then I think we are speaking the same language here. To term findability, is that something that is in use?
Um, I know
Because
what you mean.
okay, what would
I
it
think
be the better
I
term?
think discoverability.
Yeah, that is a better word.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
is,
That
yes.
makes a lot of sense. Indexing, discoverability, and SEO, localization, LATN, translation. Um, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Stakeholder relevance. User relevance. I don't know the user stakeholder relevance. That's around. Oh, you kind of have to start with figuring out who you are speaking to, or have a good way of adopting a text uh, from one audience to another. I don't know if AIs could be useful for that or something, but having someone who is aware of what the needs of a certain audience are, or
Yeah,
is that even a thing? That's what.
it is. It is. I mean, we actually do that in CycloneDX. We actually
Yeah,
have an industry working group, and they're the ones that actually kind of tell us. Well, one, we always present the industry working groups with some lofty ideas of shit we want to do.
yeah,
And it was in one of those industry working group calls that Christopher Gates, who's highly involved in the medical industry, came up with Project Koala, which just kind of stuck. But anyway, we typically throw out lofty ideas to the industry working group, and they kind of provide guardrails, but they also provide word on the street type of thing. This is what we're
right.
hearing in our field. In the field, this is what our customers are looking for. Can you help us type of thing? So
Yes.
it's kind of the extreme programming equivalent of like an on-site customer.
Yeah. All right, sweet. So I'm not completely off my mark when I added this one. It's
No,
great.
no, no. I completely understand where you're going with that.
All right, sweet. 3 minutes to the full hour. Should we leave it at that?
Yeah, let's pick up at event organizing next time.
Yeah,
Put your
I'll
little arrow there.
all right, I'll put an arrow there. So I'll put a smiley there. No, I
There you
cannot do
go.
that because smileys don't communicate the things I want to communicate here.
Oh, right.
Let's see.
You are here.
Yes, I want the pointing finger. That was the one I was looking for the last time, but I ended up with finding the arrows before I found the hands.
Yeah.
This is Google not giving me the right symbols. And we have buildings and foodstuffs and animals and the faces, and there we have it. Sweet. There, see, we have a pointing finger. There we have it. This is where we are. So next time we'll start on event organizing, and we'll move on from there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Will the time zone thing, you guys have the changing to this winter time or daylight saving this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend we switch. And then I may not be available for the next call. I'll be in Orlando at Disney World. I'll have to check what time this is going to be and if we have anything conflicting. But yeah, we might actually have to cancel. Or if other folks show up, what I can do is I can just start the meeting and you can kind of run next the next session's meeting.
Yeah, I think this kind of activity really benefits from talking through the points here. So if we know, if anybody watches this, this is a fantastic opportunity to step up and help. And if it turns out we'll only be in 2 weeks, then we'll just continue in a month.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.